Hey, I'm Chris. I'm 25 and I live in a small apartment complex just outside Seattle. Nothing too fancy, thin walls, worn carpet, but cheap rent. It's mine and that matters. Most of my days pass in a predictable loop. Work my IT job at a mid-sized tech firm, order takeout, binge watch series, and occasionally hang out with friends. Life's been quiet lately. Maybe a little too quiet. But all of that changed one rainy Tuesday afternoon when a small envelope with a familiar logo dropped into my mailbox. It was an invitation to my high school reunion. I wasn't exactly popular back then, more like comfortably invisible. My stomach twisted a little, not because I was nervous about seeing old classmates, but because one particular name stood out on the guest list: Emma Dawson. Emma was my first and serious girlfriend, and the only woman I ever imagined marrying. We dated throughout high school, survived graduation, and even went to the same college. But during our senior year, everything fell apart. She broke up with me, saying she needed something different, someone more ambitious, more ready for life. Apparently, she'd found him. Rumors had reached me months earlier that Emma was dating a successful entrepreneur named Daniel Tall, Confident Rich. And right there, printed clearly on the reunion invitation, was confirmation they'd both be attending. I sat in my kitchen, staring at that invitation longer than necessary, bitterness rising in my throat. How was I supposed to face her, pretending like seeing her didn't bother me? It was Wednesday evening, still irritated by the thought of Emma and her perfect boyfriend, when I bumped into Sarah for the first time that week. Sarah lived across the hall, 40, divorced, always graceful and polite. But we barely spoke more than a few friendly words in passing. She was everything I wasn't: composed, confident, effortlessly sophisticated. I stepped into the elevator at the exact moment she was pressing her floor number. Her eyes flicked up, smiling slightly. "Hey, Chris," she greeted softly. "Hey, Sarah. Long day." She nodded, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Too long." I hesitated, still clutching the invitation in my hand. Maybe it was an impulse or sheer awkwardness, but suddenly I heard myself blurting, "Hey, want to do me a huge favor?" Sarah raised her eyebrow, intrigued but cautious. "What kind of favor?" I laughed nervously, not sure how to proceed. "Well, it sounds stupid when I say it out loud." "Try me," she challenged gently. "My high school reunion's coming up." I admitted, holding up the invitation as proof. "My ex-girlfriend will be there with her perfect new boyfriend." I paused awkwardly, meeting her steady gaze. "I was joking with some friends and that I should bring a fake girlfriend to avoid looking pathetic. You know, someone mature, confident, someone they'd never expect." Sarah laughed, a soft, melodic sound, but then she fell abruptly silent, studying me with a thoughtful expression. I immediately regretted speaking, feeling my face flush hotly. "I'm kidding, of course," I added hurriedly, desperate to save face. "It's stupid." Forget I said anything. Sarah's voice cut through my rambling thoughts. "When is the reunion, Matu?" My heart stumbled a beat. I stared blankly. "What?" She repeated herself calmly. I asked, "When is the reunion?" For a long moment I stood frozen, trying to read her. There wasn't humor in her eyes, just sincerity and a hint of curiosity. Friday evening," I finally replied, confusion clear in my voice. Sarah nodded slowly, thoughtful. "Friday works for me," she said casually, as though we were simply planning to catch a movie. "I'd be happy to help." I blinked, unable to hide the surprise and disbelief flooding my face. "You're serious?" "Why wouldn't I be?" she replied easily. Her eyes softened, her lips quirking into a small smile. "Unless you're worried your friends won't believe you." I shook my head immediately. No, I'm not worried about that. It's just you caught me off guard." Sarah stepped out of the elevator as it opened on our floor, turning back to look at me, amused but sincere. "Consider it settled then. Text me the details." She walked down the hall to her door, leaving me standing speechless. My pulse raced as reality slowly sank in. Sarah, my graceful and enigmatic neighbor, had agreed without hesitation to pretend to be my girlfriend. Was this normal? Was this crazy? Maybe a little of both. I spent the entire night tossing and turning, caught between excitement and apprehension. My phone lay on my nightstand, Sarah's number entered but unsent. Finally, just after midnight, I tapped send, giving her the basic details, time, place, dress code. Within seconds, my screen lit up. I'll be ready. Don't worry, I'll be convincing. Sarah. Friday came quickly, the reunion looming. I spent the day nervous and distracted at work. My mind replayed the elevator conversation again and again, still unsure what had possessed Sarah to accept so easily. As the afternoon dragged on, anxiety rose in my chest. What if everyone knew it was fake? Worse, what if Sarah changed her mind at the last minute? After work, I stopped briefly at my apartment to change. But before heading back out, I paused outside Sarah's door, suddenly anxious. The door was slightly ajar, the gentle rustle of fabric audible inside. Without fully thinking it through, I peered inside. There she stood, her reflection clear in the hallway mirror, carefully examining herself in an elegant black dress. She looked stunning, beautiful, confident, every bit the woman I'd always admired from afar. My heart skipped involuntarily as I watched her smooth the fabric against her waist, her expression thoughtful yet serene. Suddenly my throat tightened, nervousness replaced with a deeper confusion. It felt as though I was witnessing something intimate, something I had no right to see. I pulled back quickly, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. Standing outside her door, I leaned my head against the wall, feeling foolish and uncertain. A thought began to nag at the edge of my consciousness, persistent and alarming. What exactly are we doing here? It was just supposed to be pretend one night, one favor. But as I stood there, unable to tear my eyes away from Sarah's half-open door, I began to realize that pretending might not be so simple after all. Standing in the doorway of Sarah's apartment building, I tugged nervously at my jacket sleeve, feeling absurdly overdressed and equally unsure of myself. The reunion was starting in less than an hour, but my mind was stuck in a loop of doubt. Was this really happening? Had I actually asked my neighbor, an elegant woman, 15 years my senior, to pretend to be my girlfriend for the night? Before I could talk myself out of the entire thing, Sarah's door opened smoothly, pulling me instantly out of my thoughts. My breath caught in my throat. Sarah stood there poised and radiant in a sleek black dress that hugged her figure perfectly. Her hair fell gracefully around her shoulders, a subtle touch of makeup enhancing her already striking features. In that moment, she wasn't just my neighbor. She looked like a movie star, effortlessly beautiful in every sense of the word. Chris. Her voice was soft, amusement flickering in her eyes as she noticed my stunned silence. Is something wrong? I swallowed hard, shaking my head quickly. No, I mean, you look amazing. Really? She smiled warmly, gently, placing a hand on my arm. The simple touch sent a strange warmth through me. Thank you. You're not so bad yourself, she teased lightly, adjusting my crooked T with practiced ease. Ready to convince everyone we're deeply in love. I laughed nervously, the tension easing slightly. I think you might be a natural at this. She winked, grabbing her purse from the table beside the door. Then let's make sure we're the perfect couple tonight. The reunion was held at an upscale restaurant downtown. As soon as we arrived, anxiety started to twist in my stomach. It had been 7 years since I'd seen most of these people, and I couldn't help but wonder how they'd changed, especially Emma. As we walked into the crowded room, Sarah immediately slipped her hand into mine. Her grip was firm, reassuring, warm. She leaned close, whispering gently in my ear, "Relax, I've got you." My nerves settled just a little as old classmates approached, their eyes filled with curiosity and surprise. It was clear most hadn't expected me to show up, let alone with a woman as captivating as Sarah. "Chris," came a familiar, surprised voice. My heart jolted uncomfortably as I turned to see Emma standing there, her eyes widening slightly as she took us both in. Beside her stood Daniel, tall, polished, everything I wasn't. Emma had changed slightly, her features sharper, more mature, but still painfully familiar. "Hey, Emma," I managed, offering a polite smile. "It's good to see you." Her eyes lingered on Sarah, openly assessing. "You too. And who's this?" Before I could speak, Sarah extended a graceful hand, her voice smooth and confident. "I'm Sarah, Chris's girlfriend." Her emphasis was soft, natural, as if there had never been any doubt. Emma's eyes narrowed subtly, a forced smile appearing. "Girlfriend, wow, Chris, I had no idea." Sarah squeezed my hand affectionately. "Chris can be pretty private sometimes," she replied gently, her gaze warm as she looked up at me. But we've been together almost a year now. Emma's mouth tightened slightly. A year, I guess I really am out of the loop. Sarah smiled warmly, not bothered at all by the tension. Chris mentioned you two used to date a long time ago. It's nice to finally meet you. Daniel stepped forward, shaking my hand firmly. I'm Daniel, Emma's fiancé. I nodded politely, noticing the enormous diamond sparkling on Emma's finger. Congratulations, both of you. Emma didn't respond, her attention still on Sarah. So Sarah, what do you do? Sarah smiled lightly, entirely at ease. I'm an editor for a publishing firm. It's not glamorous, but I love it. Emma forced another smile, clearly struggling to keep her cool. That's wonderful. Sounds very stable. Sarah just laughed softly, leaning into my side. Oh, we keep things interesting enough. Life's never dull with Chris around. I felt my face flush slightly, trying not to show how much Sarah's effortless charm affected me. She wasn't just acting. She was living the role completely. Every look, every touch, every softly spoken word felt real, genuine, deeply convincing. Throughout the night, Sarah never let go of my hand for long. She called me babe, laughed warmly at my jokes, and shared stories that somehow made it sound like we'd truly spent a beautiful year together. Classmates glanced at us approvingly, openly admiring our supposed relationship. Several even mentioned how happy they were to see me finally settling down with someone so obviously wonderful. But it was Emma's reactions that surprised me most. Every now and then I'd catch her staring openly, almost resentfully, as Sarah gently brushed her fingertips along my arm or leaned in to whisper something that made me smile. Emma had chosen to leave me years ago. Yet here she was, clearly bothered by Sarah's presence beside me. Eventually, as the evening started winding down, Emma approached me alone, pulling me aside quietly. Her voice was tense, controlled. So Chris, Sarah seems lovely. I glanced across the room, finding Sarah talking easily with another classmate. My voice softened involuntarily. She is. Emma hesitated, the question heavy on her tongue. Are you really serious with her, or is this just a rebound? Her jealousy startled me, leaving me both confused and oddly pleased. Honestly, Emma, I replied carefully, I've never been happier. Emma's eyes clouded, hurt flashing briefly before she masked it again. I'm glad, she murmured stiffly, turning away without another word. Later in the quiet drive home, Sarah turned toward me in the passenger seat, her voice gentle. Are you okay? I nodded slowly, glancing over at her. You were incredible tonight. I think everyone genuinely believed us. Sarah chuckled softly, turning her gaze out the window. It was surprisingly easy. We reached our apartment complex far sooner than I wanted. I walked her slowly to her door, neither of us speaking. Finally, Sarah turned to face me, her expression softening as she looked up at me, eyes warm and thoughtful. I had fun tonight, Chris, she admitted quietly. It's been a long time since I've enjoyed an evening so much, even if it was just pretend. Her words lingered between us, heavier than I expected. She smiled gently, unlocked her door, and stepped inside. As the door closed softly behind her, I stood there staring at it for far longer than necessary, her words echoing in my head. Even if it was just pretend. My heart pounded, feelings tangled uncertain. What had started as a simple favor, a harmless lie, it was now something far more complicated. I stood there silently, realizing with startling clarity that somewhere during the evening I'd stopped pretending too. After the reunion, something shifted between Sarah and me. It wasn't an immediate change, nor was it even fully intentional. It was subtle, almost imperceptible at first, a quiet comfort in each other's presence, an ease that hadn't existed before. What began as a casual nod in the hallway turned into coffee together most mornings. She would text me first sometimes, inviting me over, and I'd find myself making excuses to linger just a little longer at her door after saying goodnight. Our conversations became longer, deeper, moving beyond polite small talk into genuine discussions about life, disappointments, dreams. Sarah opened up more about her past, her failed marriage, the loneliness of divorce, and how she'd resigned herself to solitude until that absurd night I'd asked her to pretend. I learned that behind her poised exterior was someone deeply thoughtful and kind, someone who was brave enough to take risks, but cautious enough to guard her heart. One rainy Sunday afternoon, a soft knock startled me from my half-asleep state on the couch. Opening my apartment door, I saw Sarah standing there looking sheepish, yet charmingly vulnerable. "Sorry to bother you," she said quietly, "but my kitchen faucet decided today was a good day to start flooding the counter." I smiled, stepping aside immediately. "I'm no plumber, but I'll do my best." Sarah's kitchen was tidy, warm, and filled with subtle touches that made the place feel undeniably hers. She stood behind me, watching closely as I tried tightening the connections under the sink. After several minutes of awkward fumbling and half-successful attempts, I finally managed to stop the leak. Standing up triumphantly, I bumped directly into Sarah. She was closer than I'd realized, only inches away. My heartbeat quickened, suddenly hyper-aware of the closeness of her body, the gentle scent of her shampoo, the warmth radiating from her. Her eyes met mine, holding my gaze. Neither of us moved or spoke. Seconds felt like minutes as we stood there suspended between friendship and something else entirely. Then, as abruptly as it began, Sarah blinked, stepping back quickly and turning away. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice softer than usual, a tremor betraying her composure. "I appreciate your help." I nodded slowly, my throat dry, the intensity of the moment still vibrating between us. "Anytime," I said quietly. After that afternoon, I couldn't stop thinking about Sarah. My thoughts were filled with her laughter, the softness in her eyes, the unspoken things that lingered between us whenever our eyes met. I began to question every gesture, every smile, every lingering glance, wondering if perhaps I was simply projecting my own feelings onto her. But one chilly Saturday morning, something happened that erased all my doubts. We decided spontaneously to go grocery shopping together, a casual outing, nothing special, nothing unusual. We wandered leisurely through the aisles, exchanging teasing comments, laughing easily. It felt incredibly normal, natural, comfortable, until we turned the corner of the produce aisle and almost collided with Emma. Emma looked startled at first, clearly not expecting to see us, especially together. Her eyes flicked quickly between me and Sarah, narrowing slightly, as if trying to understand the scene before her. "Chris, Sarah," she said coolly, forcing a smile. What a surprise. I felt a familiar tension rising inside me, prepared to mumble something polite and move along. But before I could speak, Sarah surprised me completely. She slid her arm casually through mine, leaning lightly into my side, her voice warm and utterly convincing. "Emma, hi. It's nice seeing you again." Emma stared for a moment, visibly shaken by Sarah's comfortable intimacy with me. "I didn't realize you two were still together." Sarah smiled calmly, unbothered by Emma's obvious discomfort. "Of course we are," she said lightly, squeezing my arm affectionately. "Why wouldn't we be?" Emma hesitated, forcing another stiff smile. "I just wasn't sure. You know, sometimes people put on appearances for reunions and things." Sarah laughed softly, the sound perfectly genuine. "Oh no, we're quite real, I assure you." My pulse quickened at Sarah's confident declaration. For a moment, I found myself wondering, was she still pretending, or had the line blurred as much for her as it had for me? Emma excused herself quickly after that, clearly thrown off balance by the encounter. As she hurried away, Sarah gently released my arm, quietly resuming our shopping as if nothing had happened. But something undeniably had. The entire way home, my mind raced. I wanted desperately to ask her about it, about us, but fear held me back. The last thing I wanted was to risk losing whatever fragile closeness we'd built. Instead, we walked mostly in comfortable silence, the warmth of her earlier touch still lingering on my skin. That evening, alone in my apartment, I couldn't shake the image of Sarah's calm confidence in front of Emma. It hadn't felt like an act, not this time. It felt real, genuine, sincere. It felt like Sarah truly wanted everyone to believe we belonged together. But why had something truly changed for her too? Or was she simply a far better actor than I'd ever imagined? Restless, I found myself standing outside Sarah's door again. My hand raised to knock, but frozen in hesitation. My heart pounded loudly, nerves tightening in my stomach. What was I doing? Was I prepared to risk everything over a misunderstanding, over a feeling that might only exist in my imagination? I stepped back, lowering my hand. My heart was a confusing tangle of hope and fear, and I didn't trust myself to speak clearly, honestly, without ruining everything we had. Yet walking away felt just as wrong. So I stayed there in the dim hallway, trapped between action and hesitation, between pretending and reality. I closed my eyes, leaning my head gently against her door, feeling utterly lost and unsure. Where exactly are we now? I whispered into the silence, the question aimed at no one and everyone. Sarah, myself, the universe. Between pretending and falling in love, where do we stand? There was no answer, only the soft hum of the hallway lights and the steady, confused beat of my own heart. Days passed and something had clearly changed. Sarah was avoiding me. It was subtle at first, missed morning coffees, unanswered texts, quick exits from the apartment building, as if timing her movements to ensure we wouldn't cross paths.